Okay guys, we're continuing with 2.7 and we're going to talk about vertical translations. And what this basically is simply seeing a function and knowing if it's moving up or down in the positive direction or negative direction on the y-axis. So again, that is translating the graph up or maybe even translating it down, depending on your function. So if we had something that looked like such, x squared plus 2, because we're adding 2, it's actually going to move it up. So, and it's moving it upwards from the original function of this. So at x squared, you're going to be at something like this, where your parabola comes right through the origin. And so going through the origin is this one. Now if you were to be looking at this one, this is actually going to move it up the y-axis 2 points. So now at 0, 2, the point 0, 2, this is going to be where your graph is now going to come through. Basically your new origin, if you want to think of it that way. Again, if you're not for sure, I did that just by looking at it, but what you could do, if you're curious, you can always go back to the same method of graphing 3 points. And again, I always start with these 3 just because they're easy to calculate. So 1 squared is 1, 1 plus 2 is 3, 0 squared is 0, 0 plus 2 is 2, negative 1 squared is 1, plus 2 again is 3. So at negative 1, we're going to be sitting at 3. At positive 1, we're going to be sitting at 3 as well. And at 0, right here, the origin, we're going to be sitting at 2. So these 3 points are obviously on your parabola, or what going to make up your parabola. So then you can draw your line through it. We know it's a parabola simply because of the x squared. Any x squared is going to make a parabola, of course. Now, again, if we're dealing with the same function, let's say x squared, we know that's a parabola, but we're going to compare that to, let's say, this, x squared minus 2. Well, like we just saw, and we've already seen before, we know x squared is going through the origin, and it's going to be a parabola. But because we're subtracting 2 from it now, this is going to move it down the y-axis 2 points. Again, if you want to double check, you can graph it, or make your chart, pick your few points that you're going to try for your x value, and plug them back in. So 1 squared minus 2 is going to give you negative 1. 0 squared minus 2 is going to give you a negative 2. Negative 1 squared minus 2, that's going to be negative 1 again. So at 0, we're at negative 2, which is right here. Now at negative 1, we're going to be at, again, negative 1. At positive 1, we're going to be at negative 1 as well. So this parabola has basically just moved down 2 points on your y-axis. But it's still going to basically look the exact same. It's just literally taking this graph here and shifting it down to this point. And then you can come up with this new parabola. That's all it is. Kind of confusing by looking at that there, but one more time just to avoid any confusion. This is x squared. Now if we have our new function here, that's going to look something like this. Now what if we wanted to look at the one we previously had done? It would end up looking something like this. And this one is x squared plus 2. So you can see when it's subtracting some constant, you're going to move down. When you're adding it, you're going to move up from the original graph. And again, all you have to do, my pen will work. I don't know why my pen's not working now. All you have to do is just make this little chart, graph a few points, and plug them in.